That's right. Here it comes.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Bold Badass Business Show, where we bring you badasses from all over the world. And today I am thrilled to have in the house with us resilience expert coach, Anita Smith. Now, Anita is a best-selling author and a podcast host, and she has built a number of businesses, including a contracting business from the ground up over her very expansive and interesting career. And I am thrilled that today she's coming to talk to us because one of the things she loves talking about is how to access your inner warrior. She loves working with women or men who are overcoming narcissistic abuse at the workplace or at home. And so thrilled to have you here. Welcome to the show, Anita.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barnsley. I am so excited to be here. And I love the title of our show.
Let's have some fun. Let's stir up the pot. Let's stir it up and have some fun. And, you know, I love what we're talking about today because I think right now, you know, suck it up, Buttercup, how to cultivate mental toughness when you just want to hide out. I think that since COVID, so many people have been rattled, you know, or it's been hard to go back into the quote unquote real world. And so I think this is even more of an issue for people now than ever before. But before we get into the topic, I just want to ask you to share with folks a bit about your story and the moment that you realized, Anita, you know what? I am going to help people access their inner warrior. I'm going to help them find their strength and break through the oppression, suppression, depression that has been imposed by someone else. And so what was that moment for you? Tell us more about that.
You know, really, it was, I was fighting through, you know, to complete and to continue in a project that I was doing. And literally God shut it down. He put it on hold. And he said, girl, I am shifting you over here. And this is where I want you to be. And actually, I was with another group of people that were doing online work. And we were just, you know, talking about, you know, what we were doing with our business. And I had this resistance because most narcissists have inflicted trauma and pain on their victims. The victim's tendency is not to talk about it. So I was no different. I was in that position where I was like, nope, I already dealt with that. It's in the back. And it's like, no, you're not getting what I'm telling you, Anita. It is your calling right now is to do exactly the same thing, to help open the door for other people to talk about this. And to be able to walk into this, not to relive it, but to find the strategies and the tactics and the tools that you use in your toolbox to be able to overcome and rise above and really step into your true authentic self and be all that you can be in this world. Because if we're not answering our calling on our life, we're really missing the blessing. And we're really missing that authentic power that we have inside of us. I believe, and this is a very strong belief, that there's a reason why we have an individual identity with the iris, with their lip print, with their fingerprint. There's a message within that's telling us that we're individually called to certain things. We're not supposed to be doing the same thing as everybody else.
So the call came for you through this experience of a narcissist. And tell us more exactly, like the nitty gritty, like that moment that you realized, oh my gosh, this is a narcissist. And here's how they're making me feel, or this is how I'm feeling. And you identified it. Because when we identify it, then we can take it on, right? But if we feel what happens with so many victims, right? And I use that word loosely, but what happens with so many of us is we don't question it until suddenly we look down and it's like, oh, my self-esteem is eroded. I have no legs. I have no arms. You know what I mean? Where am I?
Oh, absolutely.
What was that
Yeah.
moment?
I mean,
Yeah, you said
I
that was
was
shut
born
down,
in,
but we like to spill the beans here. Don't use names. We don't need to use names. Don't use names. But we like to really be real on this show, because the thing is that someone who hears your story is in your real story is going to say, oh my, Lance, that sounds just like my coach, or that sounds just like my dissertation director, or that sounds just like my boss, or that sounds like my tax preparer, that sounds like my employee, whatever. And maybe they haven't ever even realized this person is a narcissist. So tell us a little bit
right.
more. How did you know? What was that moment?
At first I didn't know. I was actually
Right.
born into a narcissistic family. So you're conditioned from childhood. There are things that you witness, and you know in your soul, in your spirit, that it's not right. There's something off here.
Like
And
what?
but you don't question it, right?
Yeah, like give
You
us an
don't you
example.
don't yeah. Well, like I watched my mom and dad, right?
Mm-hmm,
And my dad was extremely dominating and
mm-hmm,
controlling. And my mother, I just, I'm like, she is the nicest, kindest, most giving, generous person I've ever known. Why is he treating her so terribly? Why does he push
mm-hmm,
her down and humiliate her and do these things? And I remember when I was 16, I turned to my mom. I was the youngest of 8. And
mm-hmm,
I turned to her and I said, Mom, let's just go find our own place. I mean,
mm.
intuition was
And
telling me
how
at a
old were
very
you
young
again?
age.
16?
I was like 15 or 16.
Wow.
Yeah. It
So
was
you
like,
were
Mom, let's
old
just get out
enough,
of here.
but you were also
Yeah.
wise, because you saw like your mom giving out of her heart, giving so much, and then disappearing, right? Little by little, like becoming
Oh, yeah.
shrinking
Yeah.
herself, right? To
Yeah.
be there
And
with
she
his
was
domination and
amazing.
control.
I mean,
Hmm.
when she was 55, she was like working circles around me. She was just such an amazing individual. And, and it's really intriguing. Her tool that she used to cope as a coping
Mhm,
mechanism was
mhm,
to make lightly of things, to joke
mm,
about things, to try
mm.
to find the lighter side. But that was not exactly confronting,
Yes.
what the situation was. I mean, there were some times, I mean, we talked all the time and we were very, very close. And she would tell
Mhm,
me things that she would tell nobody else. So I
mm,
knew the underlying feelings that she had. It was really
mm.
hard for her to be able to admit that she was feeling depression, that
Yeah.
she was having certain forms of anxiety, that, she felt like she had limitations and she could, not give herself permission as an adult to do certain things. She had to make sure the coast was clear so she wasn't poking the bear, right? And then
Poking the
I learned,
bear. Oh, wait, hold up. We could have called this, well, not just suck it up, Buttercup. We could be like, don't poke the bear. Because when you poke the bear, what happens? You get mauled,
that's
and
right. They
bear.
become angry, they get loud, they become intimidating, they come
I just
after you,
remember this.
right?
Did you ever see Into the Wild? Did you see that movie? And you remember when the guy is eating these berries that were poisonous, and he's getting smaller and smaller, and they're poisonous. He's going to die. He knows it. And he's like skin and bones. And he's standing outside this bus, right, where he's been living, and this bear comes up. I just remember this moment. I will never forget this moment. This bear comes up, and he doesn't make eye contact. He just stands there like this with his eyes down, and the bear just walks by, because he's just the shadow of a man. And I
That's
think
right.
that this is what narcissists create, whether
Yes.
it's at work, like they want to dominate, they want to control. And the way to do that is to do what? To put someone else down, to make someone else feel inferior, inadequate. To your
Well,
poor mom.
narcissists do something else. They poke you. It's not
Oh,
like you're
yes.
poking the bear. They're
Oh, yes.
poking at you. They're looking for the weak spot. They're looking for what they can get away with.
They're trying
I
to
was
trigger
thinking
you.
about I was thinking about the correlation between like a teenager or a 3-year-old that's pushing
Mhm.
a parent's buttons, trying to see how much they can get away with, trying to see, what is what is good and bad, right? So when you flip it around and a narcissist is trying to find your weak spots, they're going to come in subtly and very smooth and manipulating and like, hey, Dr. Binsley, you wouldn't mind doing that for me, would you? And out of the kindness of your heart, you're like, sure, I'll do that. And then it's one more thing, and then it's 10 more things, and then it's 20 more things.
And they're never
before
adequate when you do them, right? They're
No,
never up to snuff. They're never
That's
good
right.
enough.
Never good enough.
Very
And then
important
you start
part
taking on that belief system that you're not good enough because you're continually being told these things. And if you think about it, if you can change a habit in 21 days, think about what happens after years of being told, even months, but years of being told certain things about yourself and how
that
you
are
start
not true.
attaching yourself. Then
Okay,
they're not
I gotta
true.
tell a story, Anita. I gotta say something. Okay, because I'm hearing
Do it.
this and I'm like, okay, I'll tell it. When I had my daughter, I went through postpartum depression. And I think this is not talked about enough. It's absolutely not talked about enough. Here I was, this woman at age 40, having my child, right? And I was a career woman. I'd always determined my way, etc. And I was married.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody very close to me who was no longer in my life, let's just put it that way, in the capacity he was at that moment, called my antidepressants that I was taking for postpartum depression so I could take care of his child and myself crazy pills. And this was the thing. Oh, she's just crazy. Your mom is just this. And, it even continues to this day. And I'm not afraid to say it on here because I think it will free some other woman to realize, because, most people know I am one of the most assertive, positive, but also assertive people out there. And I've learned some ways to handle this, but hearing it for, 20 some years over and over is just really interesting. And I remember sitting when I was separated, I remember going to a Waffle House to meet him for breakfast because I was doing leadership training, and it was an assignment that we actually get real and have a really real discussion. And we're sitting there in the Waffle House, which I love to call Waffle Hood. It wasn't in the, it was kind of this, they're always in sort of little bit of shady places most of the time, unless you're, in Williamsburg or something. And this person said, you need to comb your hair. Your hair is always just wild. And I just looked at him, and I'd listened to that for years. And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, you're the only person who doesn't love my hair. And I just went right on with the discussion.
And that's a very valid point. It's the only person, right, that's bringing these things up.
The only person who doesn't love my hair. In fact, people come up and touch my hair, and and every time I go get it cut, they're like, oh my God, your hair is so thick. How did you get such thick hair? But, just to put that in perspective was very powerful. Yes. And I would say to everybody listening, when you're having somebody who is criticizing you for something that, let's just put it at home or at work, examine, really, is this true? Is everybody else saying the same thing? Or have I heard this a number of times? Because if so, there is probably some truth to it. And is this somebody who really cares about me, who has my best interest at heart, who really loves me and wants to lift me up? They want to lift me up. Well, I'll listen to it. There's a pattern, obviously, I need to deal with. But in this case, you're the only person who didn't realize that presentation I just gave was 5-star. The power of that, to say that.
Yes.
Use your voice.
And to own what you do as good, rather than, thinking these thoughts of, is this true? Is this not true? Who is it coming from? Do they have my best interest in mind? Do they really care about me? Right? Because a narcissist will come in and they will give you this, line, hook, and sinker that, oh my gosh, you're the greatest person, you're this, you're that, and they'll get close to you. They'll find your weaknesses. They'll be looking. And once they get once they get far enough in, then they start turning it around and reversing it. And when you get to the point where you're not the same person that you were when they first met
Yeah.
you, who was extremely strong, talented, intelligent, capable, all these awesome qualities, and they're just looking at it really with a voice of jealousy. They're taking your sun and putting it in front of them as if it's their light and owning it. You know, I've
Mhm.
had relationships in the past, whether they've been girlfriend, guy friend, boyfriend, you know,
Mhm.
whatever, and especially in my first marriage, where, you know, I would do things and they would take the credit, the glory, the, like walk in like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
look at
You
me.
did all the
At
grunt
first
work.
yeah, it's like, look at me, I'm with her. And then after a while, it's like, she's crazy, look at me, look what I've got, you know? And it's just such a bizarre, distorted, warped reality that they live in,
Mhm.
that they want you to be, enrolled in, if you will, and go along with, so that you can be their puppet and be on the strings, right?
That's a very
And
good
it's,
image. The puppet on
yeah,
the strings. And this
yeah,
is especially now, if we think about business, since we're talking about business and life, because guess what? They bleed into each other. And I always say
yes,
to
they do.
people, look, if you're having troubles with boundaries with your clients, I can guarantee you're having some troubles with boundaries with the people in your life, your friends, your family, your close associates. It's going to bleed over, but we've got to really examine and look for those people, and they hide out. They hide out, as you say. They hide out. We say when you just want to hide out in the title, but they hide out under a guise of, you're fantastic. I'm so glad you're da 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 da. And like you point out, until they find those weak parts, and then they exploit them, which is the difference between somebody who is really on your side and someone who's not. You know, it's when people
Yeah, and their
exploit.
microscope is really, really big. When
Yes.
they zoom in on you, they are really, truly looking for as many flaws as they possibly can, so they can point them out, so they can publicly humiliate you in front of
Yes.
other people, so they can make this point, to make you feel small, to somehow make themselves feel bigger. And,
Mm.
they have their, but I did this research recently that was
Mhm.
just mind blowing on, you look at the triggers, right? And you look at like something called insecurity, right? Which we all, I think, have experienced at some point in time in our life,
Yes,
especially when we're walking
absolutely.
into something new, right? So but a narcissist, when they're triggered with their insecurities, they come after you like that poke bear. But here's the ironic thing: the insecurities that they instill in you, the self doubt, the hyper self consciousness, is something that causes you to withdraw. So it's this push pull. It's this constant, yin yang, if you will, but it's
Mhm.
back and forth. And until you get the disruptions, and, I pray for everybody who has ever, or maybe still is, in a narcissistic relationship, that someone comes in your life and they disrupt the pattern so that you can see what's going on. I had a dear friend of mine I used to do Bible studies with. And one day, he was like, he would pray with me, and, we would talk about things, and he knew things weren't right. And one day he just said, enough is enough, Anita. If you don't do something about this, you're as sick as your ex is. Well, he
Wow.
wasn't, my husband is at the
Mm.
time. And that I trusted him because I knew, and this is key, I knew he really was concerned about me. He was for me. I believe in life there is no gray area. Either they're
Right.
for you or against you, right? It's right or wrong. It's right or left. It's up or down, forward or back. There is no gray area. It's like if you jump out of the boat, is there gray area? You're either in the boat or you're in the water, right?
Mm.
So it's one or the other. And, when he said that to me, it was just this incredible disruption, this incredible, and some people might not look at it this way, but
It's
it
tough
really was
love.
an act of faith. It was an
He
act of
loves you.
love. Yeah, to because his heart was breaking as he was seeing me be destroyed.
Yeah.
And so I'm
He
very
told you.
thankful for that moment,
That was hard for
right?
him to say, I'm sure, but what a powerful thing to say. Imagine,
Yeah.
if you don't do something about this, you're just as sick as your boss, or you're just as sick as your ex, or you're just as sick as your whatever, that person who
Right.
is that difficult person or narcissist. Really, you all listening, this can apply to challenging people. All right, we're focusing in on narcissists right now, but really you can use what we talk about today for challenging people. Gosh, Anita, I'm just thinking about another thing. I'm thinking about a person also in my family who said something in front of all my friends at a Thanksgiving event. She
Mm.
said, well, Barnsley is really great at what she does, even if she does have a big head about it.
Oh.
Yeah. And you know what? I will tell you, I went, it just like it was a deflation, but I knew what was going on. And what I decided to do is I waited until there was a car ride that was long and I was driving and I knew that person couldn't get away. And I brought it up and I said, and I have a question I want to ask you. And she said, okay. And I said, how do you think that comment helped me become a better person?
Oh, I love it.
And I just want to share that with everybody. If you want to say that, like, how do you think that feedback will help me become a better person? Or how do you think what you just said is going to help me become a better person? And then the key is you have to be quiet. You don't take them off the hook. You shut your mouth and you let there be a very uncomfortable silence.
That's what I call invisible pressure.
Hmm.
Because now the ball's in their court.
Pressure.
This invisible pressure that is now they know that they're on stage, they've been called out, they have been, and actually how you did that was so beautiful because it wasn't attacking.
Mm-mm.
It was an open question, right? That required an answer. And, and they're sitting there like trying to figure out, or manipulate their answer to flip it around like you did something wrong. Usually is what happens with a narcissist is that somehow you're always wrong.
You're always wrong. You're always the bad guy or the bad girl.
Yeah.
And this pattern, I just want everybody to know and realize, this pattern is going to continue over and over until you create some things that you say and some boundaries around it. Right. You know what, Anita, I was just listening to Jordan Peterson and his talks are incredible on YouTube. And for some reason, the other day, it was like 7 things you can say to a narcissist. And I was listening and I was trying to listen fast because it was like a 50-minute thing and I didn't have that much time. So I had it on double time. And I was like, wow. And one of the things, these were all very short sentences. One of them, I actually used it today in a situation. It was a situation in a leadership capacity. And I said, I see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't explain.
Super powerful.
Did not explain. Do not explain. You just say,
right.
I see what you're doing. And this is their worst nightmare because they want to manipulate with subterfuge so you don't realize what's going on. That's what they're assuming. Oh, I've snowed this person. I can do this and they're not gonna, they don't know. I'm gonna pull the wool over their eyes. And you simply say, I can see what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to call it out without calling it out and leave a curiosity note in there. Because when you do it that way, it's really difficult to manipulate something that you don't know what they think you know versus what you actually see and you do know.
And this person said, what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, and the more they feel that they're losing control will trigger them. They might come back and love bomb or be overly nice, but the key is with narcissistic dynamics between the person who is inflicting the pain, the person who's receiving, right? Or absorbing, which is really dangerous, is that they are, when they feel they're losing control, they will flip on whatever switch that they need because they know you really well. They know what you like, what you don't like, where your weaknesses and your strengths are. And they're going to look for any avenue or door that you give them. The really important thing to remember is if you do understand what is going on and how they are manipulating, you don't need to respond to anything. You can just look at them and just move on. And actually, from the research that I've done and the things that I have found is that it's very unusual and rare, because narcissists, whether they're a grown body, male or female, right, are really children in the inside. And they're looking for approval. They're looking for validation. They're looking to be center of attention. They don't feel important on the inside, so they're doing things to force it on other people, on other situations. I remember with my ex-husband, he would go out and he would like grandstand, be center of attention and even be this manipulating, say compliments about me. But when we got behind closed doors, it was like a horror show. It was a totally different dynamic. And really knowing who you are is so important.
Knowing and honoring who you are, right?
Yes.
Knowing and honoring who you are. And I believe also using I statements is very important. I feel, I think, because the moment that we begin accusing, like, you're gaslighting me, or you're doing this, or you're whatever, the moment we begin accusing, we're actually roped in to their script. We're roped into their drama. But when we use the I statements, I feel da 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 da, and that's part of what it means to be a business owner and to be a leader. I actually just said to a board that I've been president of for years today, because somebody had promised to do something and she hadn't done it, and I took it on. And I said, this put me in a very bad position where I was in between two people, and I had to be the bad guy, and it was very uncomfortable. I felt very uncomfortable, and I don't want to clean up other messes. So if you say you're going to do something, follow through, or just don't say you're going to. And
I love the I statements.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the I statements because that's something you can own, and if, like I was saying, knowing yourself is so important, because if you really don't know who you are, you don't know who your strengths are. And actually, that is probably 96% of the population, because statistics show that only 4% actually do the personal development work. They do the work.
Okay, I love that, because only 12.7% of business owners ever get to six figures. And if you've ever listened to anybody like Tony Robbins, whatever, they say the amount to which you grow yourself is the amount your business grows, right? I love that point you're making. And it's so true. And especially when you're in business for yourself, you're going to have many people come to you who get mad because you enforce your policies. They may get mad. They may talk about you. They may do all sorts of things. I just had my attorney write a letter, to one such person. That I did. Because I'm not going to have my brand and my reputation over these 25 years talked about negatively for enforcing a policy that was very clear and articulated in writing and signed and all of that. So what I want to say to everybody is, yes, this mental toughness that we're talking about today, it's really hard, because especially you know, in business, you know your clients usually. And it's like, yeah, I want to be nice to them. Well, sometimes we can give people the hall pass, right? You know, you were late 30 minutes. Okay, that's fine. Today, I'm still going to give you your full session. However, next time, we're going to only be able to spend 30 minutes together if you arrive 30 minutes late. You know, we got to set those boundaries, and policies are essential. Yes. And data is essential with narcissists, right, Anita? Data.
Well, think about it. Even decision making is such a critical element in, you know, owning who you are and what you stand for, and walking in leadership. Leadership is not it. You know, they say it's lonely at the top, right? Sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's the best place to be because you have the best team, because that's what you've created.
Yeah.
That is what you've developed. But it's a building process. All of this that I teach is really creating, you know, I mean, and if you look at the process of building a house, right? First you dig in. Sometimes you find some really crazy things, some unforeseen things, and you shift and you do what you have to do before you actually can form the walls to create your foundation. And once you create your foundation, you create the framework, right? Mm-hmm. You build the frame, and then you sturdy it up, then you wrap it, you seal it, cover it, and then you do the final work on the inside. And that is really what this whole process is like, is it's being able to face your fear, face the things that you have been so manipulated and conditioned to avoid, and to work around, do the windy road and go all these different directions rather than being direct. And learning to speak about this, learning to actually talk about this. And especially when you get into a room with other people, it is the most accelerated way to learn and to grow. And also the number one thing is to know that you're not the only one. You're not the only one fighting this invisible war, this invisible battle. And it is totally attainable to reach whatever level in life that you want.
Okay, I'm going to pause you for a second, because what you said is powerful. And when we want to hide out, here's what I want to say to everybody, because it's very hard when we feel attacked, right? To you know, or we're afraid of confrontation, and we're afraid of being direct. It's very, very hard. It's a hard thing. However, this is what I want to say to everybody. If we don't do it, if we don't stand up for ourselves about policies or about parts of our business, about the fact that non-refundable really does mean non-refundable, and that was all clearly spelled out at least 6 or 8 times. If we are not willing to take a stand, do you know what's going to happen? That person is going to do this again to someone else in business, again and again and again. And so
that's right.
Us hiding out.
And if you don't stand for yourself, who will?
Exactly.
Nobody is going to show up except for you. Except for you.
Waiting for the Hulk to come in and be like, "You're making me angry," but it never happened. The Hulk never came, you know, don't make me angry. You're making me angry. I never happened. We had to learn to have this mental toughness. And in business, we have to learn, I think, to take nothing personally.
Oh, that is so beautiful and so powerful. Yeah. You know, a lot of times I see people with these preconceived ideas. A lot of times we get ourselves worked up and we have everything. It's like, oh, I can't do this because, you know, and we fill in the blank and we create our own story. Well, what if we press through? We broke through that story that we keep rehearsing of why I can't do this, versus being our best cheerleader and saying, do it anyway. See what happens.
Or how could I do it? And change the question.
Or how could I? Yeah. Or become curious and ask questions of people. Look at resources. Read books. You know, there's different ways to get to where you want to go. It's just a matter of being resourceful yourself, and really saying, you know what, I'm just ditching the old story. You know, I love the scripture that says the renewing of our minds every day is a reset, right? We get to wake up. If we ask questions like you do, you told me you do, you ask yourself a question before you go to bed. and then you have the answer in the morning because you have all night to sleep on it.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we are doing these mind hacks, if you will, and there's so many different ways to approach this, but I just love anything doing with, reset and being
Yes.
able to actually rebirth a new version of yourself. It is the most exciting work. It really is. It's the most exciting process to go through.
It's going to be incremental because I guarantee everybody, that when you start to actually be more direct and assertive, you are going to be so freaking uncomfortable. You are going to maybe want to check your pants. Did I have an accident? It's going to be hard. I'm telling you, it's going to be hard, but it's just like a muscle. As you keep doing it, it's just like when you go to the gym and first you start and you can only do like 4 of those arm curls and you're like, ow, but you keep going back and you keep increasing your weights and you keep doing it just bit by bit. And then eventually one day you realize, you know what? I'm free. I am free.
Yeah. I got pipes now, right? I've been pumping.
You've been pumping. You go, girl. You go, girl. Well, I've just been throwing darts at people who are getting on my nerves. I have their pictures up here and I just throw darts. I'm kidding. But it is good to recognize. You know what I said today, Anita? This will make you laugh, because Barnsley has some little one-liners. But I was talking to my acupuncturist and I said, a lot of people really need to go postal, but there's a problem. After the flood, we don't have a post office. And she said, that is hilarious because we don't. Our post office is closed in Chapel Hill. You have to drive to Durham right now because of the big, big floods we had this past week. And, you want to go postal, but there's no post office. What do you do? So we've got to have ways to reset. And I love that word because, a lot of people, sometimes a quick nap or self-hypnosis can be a good reset. But, if you're just hiding out because you don't want to deal with a difficult customer or you don't want to deal with the person who asks way too many questions and uses and drains your time and energy, or you don't want to deal with blah, 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 who are we really hurting? We're hurting ourselves. Their life is not affected. They don't give a crap.
Well, think about it. What's the cost that you pay, right? Think about this. So you're hiding out. You're not being who you want to be or doing what you want to do. And so you're letting life pass you by. We don't get our time. That's the one commodity we don't get back. We don't get back our time. So this is lost forever. And that hurts. I don't care what way you look at it and who you are. That hurts because we got one shot at this life to get it right, right? And yes, we keep trying, and that's good because the more we try, the more we experiment. Was it Einstein who had done 10,000 experiments and somebody walked up to him and said, I don't know how you can keep going after failing so many times.
It was Edison. It was Thomas Edison and the light bulb.
Edison, yeah.
Yes.
Einstein, Edison.
I love that story. But I'm sure Einstein did the same thing.
I don't know.
He had these huge theories.
Yeah, he said
he had to fail forward.
Yeah, but he didn't feel like he failed.
He failed.
He didn't
forward.
view it that way.
He didn't fail.
He said
he failed.
He goes, I was just seeing what was working and what wasn't.
Yes.
Right. So, if we change our perspective, and this is kind of where I'm going with this, if we change our perspective on exactly how are we viewing things, are we viewing them as hard? Do we say, oh, I have to do this, or I get to do this?
Right.
See the energy shift? It's so different. Oh, I can't do this. It's like, well, maybe I can do this. I'm going to try.
I have to deal with this person versus I get to learn how to effectively communicate with this person,
Or maybe I can say it a different way, right? I can form my words differently to get a different outcome. And outcome is the key. That is the element that we're always looking for. So a lot of people make decisions in the here and now based on the circumstances that are right in front of them. They're in survival mode. They are shrunk down into this time frame, right? What if we were making decisions that were aiming into a vision that we have, a
A
goal that we want to
long-term
attain.
vision.
Yeah, something in the
Yeah.
future. And what are the steps I need to make? And it's a lot easier to stay on the path when you know where you're going, when you
Mhm.
know exactly what you're doing. You might not know all the steps in between, and that's okay, but they're just obstacles, right? And that can create new opportunities. It can create this element inside of you that is just like pulling you forward because you want to see what's next. And life can be exciting. Even when it feels hard sometimes, it can
Yeah,
still
the
be exciting.
shitstorm can be exciting. It can be an adventure. I really believe
Well,
that. I always say, let's turn that poop into compost, because that's what
yeah,
compost is. So you take it, turn those lemons into lemonade, whatever. But I mean, that's a really nice metaphor. I think turn the poop into compost. Let those worms get
even
in
if
there.
it's chicken poop.
It's messy. Yeah, chicken poop.
Yeah,
It's messy. It is messy. And when we begin to cultivate mental toughness, it's messy. It's going to be messy, and we're going to
that's
have
okay.
moments that we want to go hide, you know? And I think it's so important, like you said, to know your resets. What are the ways to reset yourself? Like a quick 20-minute nap, or maybe a
Yes.
10-minute walk, or maybe you're going to do the cross crawl. That is really a powerful exercise you can do to unite your left and right brain. Or maybe you're going to call your friend and you're going to say, hey, can we have a 2-minute bitch session? And y'all are just going to rah, 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 and then you're going to let it go. But we got to
Yeah,
know our resets, our reset buttons, or what's going to happen is this stuff is going to accumulate, right, Anita? It's going to accumulate. And just like that narcissist is, or the difficult person is making us feel less than, and eventually we begin to believe it and internalize it, stuff's going to accumulate. And that accumulated stuff is going to impede us from attracting and magnetizing our clients.
absolutely.
Yeah.
When you're in a state of desperation rather
Yes.
than in a state of calmness, makes a difference on the outcome of your production, right? And being able to see that for what it is. You were talking about resets. Well, one of mine is I love to sing, so I'll turn on some music and I'll release, and it just fills my cup. It puts light back in me.
I
Another
love
thing
it.
that I do if I'm thinking, I'll go for a walk. I
Mhm.
think so good on my feet. Plus, I'm getting exercise, but I think so good on my feet. I can multitask. I'm good at that. I'm good at combining my efforts and being able to compound my time and get more of my time back, and being able to do just little tidbits of things that builds my confidence.
Mhm.
They're like, well, how do you build your confidence? And it's like, it's a rehearsal,
You do
right?
the
So
thing.
right. So the
You do
first
the
time
hard
you
thing.
try something, yeah, it might feel really uncomfortable at first. I
Mhm.
mean, do you know how to build a house? It's like, what's the first thing? Um, I who do I contact? But
Right.
when you start doing the research and you start digging in, right, and doing these things, Rome wasn't built in a day. A house isn't built in a day,
A
and it's
business
not done by
isn't built
someone
in a
looking at
day.
it,
Your
right?
business isn't
There's
built in a day.
energy, right?
It's
Faith
about
comes by
conscious
works,
choices.
works, right, right. And you build your confidence by
Mhm.
repetition. I love the story about Michael Jordan, that when he first tried out for the basketball team, the coach said, "You're not on the team." He's like
Mm.
in shock because he
Mm.
knew he had talent. He
Mhm.
knew that he was capable, right? But he didn't know how to play team. He was arrogant. He was all about himself. And
Yeah.
he knew that he would be poison in the water entering the team in that state of mind.
Mhm.
So he reset his thinking by saying, okay, but tell you what. And he set out a path for him to be able to earn the right.
Mm.
So he said, you meet me here at 6 o'clock every morning before school, and we're going to go through some drills. We're going to go through some exercises and redundancy. And he said, and by the time the next year hit, he tried out for the team, he made the team, And, you know, he has a history that is so successful.
And you're speaking my language because I'm in Chapel Hill, Anita. So everything here is Michael Jordan. Like we've got the Michael Jordan with the dealerships, the car dealerships. We've got Michael Jordan everything around here.
But he taught him how to be humble.
Yes.
A humble winner. He taught him how to be vulnerable. He taught him how to play team. I mean, the college team he was on was successful. He's the only one in history to win 4 championships in a row. And he created his own signature hang time, his own clothing line,
his incredible shoes. Oh my land.
Look at what he built by being humble.
And what he continues to build.
Yes.
But he had to be out for us, not just me. He had to be about us, not just me. It had to be about we and not me. And I really think this is so important when we're talking about mental toughness. To come back to that point I made earlier is, you know, mental toughness is essential because guess what? You developing it is important because somebody's watching you. That might be your child. It might be your neighbor. It might be that intern you mentor. It might be your employee. It might be a customer. Somebody, definitely people are watching you and they're going to model their behavior on you. And so if something happens and you crumble, right? Guess what? They're learning when this happens, I crumble. And we don't want to do that to other people. So even if you don't want to have mental toughness for yourself, folks, get it for the rest of us. Because when we see you doing your thing and we see you free and we see you happy and we see you successful and prosperous, we should be cheering because you're setting the stage for the rest of us and you're making it easier for the rest of us. In the same way, if we're hiding out and we're not accepting our responsibility, and as you put it, we're not accepting our God-given purpose, right? That signature, like our fingerprints. If we're doing that, guess what? That's what we're teaching the people around us. We have a responsibility.
I love what you said about we, because it just, you know, a lot of times when people are in a narcissistic relationship, they are put into isolation. Yeah. And now you can give yourself the power to join with other people because the truth is we're stronger together. I mean, with Dr. Barnsley and I joining together today, we couldn't have this conversation alone.
No,
you know,
it would be so boring.
Yourself alone so long, you know.
Anita, I had somebody not show up one time. I had to come on by myself, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is no fun." The show is all about promoting incredible people with incredible messages and about connection between you and me and everyone listening from here on out. Connection between me and the people who will come on in the future. Connection between all the people who are going to listen to this because it's going to be out there. It's about connection. Yes, such a powerful, powerful thing. When one of us rises, all of us rise. Right?
We're built for connection.
Yeah.
We're built for this.
We're built to connect. We're not built for disconnection.
If we're not talking, if we're telling our story so that someone else can feel like, you know what, you taught me something by what you said. Yes. You've encouraged me and inspired me, or you let me know that I'm not alone, or my story is reaching out into the youth, you know, so that they aren't repeating this pattern, so that they can see the blueprint. They can see what it looks like.
See what liberation looked like earlier.
Yes. I mean, if I would have had the knowledge that I have today, when I was 15 or 16, we would have moved out. I would have pushed my mom and pushed her. I would have resourced other ways. I mean, there were opportunities, right? There were things, but she just couldn't see. She had these blinders on. She was living in fear. She was paralyzed.
She was dominated.
To make a move, you know, and that's, you know, I have Bold Moves Academy that where we do like a 90-day challenge, or we do a 6-month program.
Beautiful.
Or in it, right? In the container together so that we can grow together and strengthen one another.
Exactly.
You know, think about it. If, you know, like in the military, if one person isn't holding their part, it's like it all unravels, right?
It endangers everybody. Yes.
it endangers everybody.
Yes.
So coming together as a strength, as a force, can you imagine how narcissists would feel
Oh,
if
yes.
there was
Outnumbered.
yeah,
Outnumbered for one
you know,
thing, which is really
seeing
good.
all these individuals come together and say no more. You know what? We're going to be
Right.
ambassadors into the world, and we're going to spread the good news instead of hiding and letting somebody else suffer because we didn't speak.
We didn't
And
exercise our platforms. And by the way, all of you
yes,
have platforms. You know, I have this show, you have your show, Anita. That's great. But all of you have a platform. You're on social media. You're texting people. You're writing letters sometimes to people. You're on the telephone. You have a platform in your life. And again, I'm reminded that people are watching and you are a leader, whether or not you like it. Well, you know what, Anita, you and I can talk forever. It's so clear. You know, you already have when we talk on the phone or on Zoom, and it's really time for us to wrap this up. And you've given us this so many ideas to think about, and the importance of having, I just want to say the importance of having a coach and having a group, a community. This is so important in my Make It Happen mastermind. That's why 93% of my people get results, is because of the structure, the container, and everything that is put together with a community. And your bold moves, same thing. People coming together with everyone collaborating and supporting and cheerleading, the yay sayers rather than the naysayers. And this is so essential in business, because business, just like being in a narcissistic relationship, business can be isolating. So that being said, you get to put something, Anita, into our Bold Badass Business freebie vault. And everyone listening, this is my favorite part of our time together, because I get to give you thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts that will change your life. And because you change your life, that changes everyone around you and creates a ripple effect. Now, how do you get into the freebie vault? Here's the address, you all. It is bit.ly/free from Dr. B, which is DRB. Again, bit.ly/free from Dr. B, DRB. And you'll just put in your email. We do not share your email. We do not share your information. We are not slimy. We protect your privacy. And when you get in there, at the top, you're going to see all our VIP Bold Badass Business sponsors. Make sure you get their gifts. Make sure there are sessions. There are mind movies. There are all sorts of things, e-courses, videos, discounts. There's all sorts of stuff, free ebooks, free templates that will make your life and your business better. So that being said, Anita, what would you like to put into the freebie vault? And if you're not sure yet, it doesn't really matter, because you can just tell me and we're going to get it in there for everybody to enjoy.
Well, I am offering a one-on-one consultation if they would like to learn more about what I do and if I'm a good fit for them and for the needs that they have. The other thing that I have coming up that isn't complete yet, but I'm going to be giving you the link to my free ebook that is coming out. I can't give you the name quite yet because it's a surprise. But
we can guess that it's going to be in your face a little with love.
It is. It's going to be juicy and it's going to be good.
So, I love the word juicy. Do you know what? That's what they called me when I was doing transformational leadership and my PhD in transformational leadership. Not my PhD, this one, but a different one. They called me Juicy. That was my name on the on the team, Juicy.
How did I know?
How would you
know
that?
That there's a clothing line out that's called Juicy?
I know, that Juicy Couture. You know, yes. I saw that, and I know some of the brands. I really don't care too much about those things, but I remember seeing it on one of the people in our team, right? And she had it on her rear end on these like sweatpants, and I was like, Juicy, what the heck is this? And she said, you don't know what this is? She was a model in New York, so she knew all the couture. Well, you all, this has been fabulous, hasn't it? I hope that all of you listening will put an aha. Don't be an internet voyeur. Don't hide out. We're talking
That's
about having
right.
mental toughness. Part of having mental toughness is being willing to risk, to say, hey, I've been in a narcissistic relationship with a boss or whatever. So I want to encourage everyone listening to risk, because when you risk, you give risk for good, right? When you risk for good, you give other people permission to do the same. Again, they're watching you, whether or not you're a badass, whether or not you're a leader, you are. Anita, thank you so much for coming. It has been a joy, and yes, it has been juicy. And we will definitely have your juicy title and that complimentary consult so you can get off your butt and create bold moves. That would be my name for it, but I know you have a different name for it. Get off your
Do you
butt.
mind if I add one extra
That's
thing?
something. Yes, go for it.
One thing I just would like to leave with the listeners who have been in a narcissistic relationship or just are struggling in life in some way is find your standard. Find the thing that defines you and set boundaries around that so that you can build yourself up and be the incredible, authentic you and the mentally tough you that that you can influence other people, that you can make a difference and a mark in this world. And I really highly encourage you to just do an audit on where you're at, what you want in life, score yourself in different areas. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What are my actions? How am I showing up? And I'm sure you can add to that list, but that's a good place to start.
I love that. Self-audit. Audit your business and audit yourself and ask, on a scale of 0 to 10, how satisfied am I with what's going on?
Yes.
How satisfied am I?
And my core business is called Meant for More. And I named the business as a mantra, as a reminder to myself that we're all meant for more. You were meant for greatness. So you get to walk into it.
I love that, Anita. That's so great. And, you all listening, I always say at the end, you may not feel like a badass right now, but as Anita just said, you are meant for more. We'll bring that right in here. You are a badass, or you would not have tuned in with us today. So I'll see you back with an incredible guest next week at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And also, you all, would you kindly share this with someone whose life can be changed by the conversation that we've had today? And would you like it and comment? Because when you give us hearts and when you comment, guess what happens? More people get to see this conversation and benefit from it. We really rely on you to spread the word about the Bold Badass Business Show. And I so appreciate your support. So keep badassing, and we'll see you next week. Bye, all.
Thank you so much.